Hi, Wild Ones. Welcome back to the Wild Rose podcast. I'm Whitney Rose.
I'm Connie Daniels. Today, we have two amazing people on our podcast that we are so excited to introduce. They are not only very successful realtors here in Utah, but they are a gay married couple who have triplet toddlers. So we can't wait to talk to them today and to get all of the details of their story. Like, what a fascinating story to grow up here in Utah and be a gay married couple, one, aside from anything else. But then on top of it, to have triplets. Can you imagine?
Yeah, triplets with their DNA, right?
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Can you imagine having triplet toddlers?
No. Or even like newborns to this point.
Yes.
Or I can't. And then it's going to end up being triplet teenagers at some point. Can you
Triple
imagine?
everything.
Triple everything. So we can't wait to listen to their story and to get all of the details on how they manage their life.
Well, they just they're such a fascinating couple. They're powerhouses, like Connie said, successful. They're the sweetest human beings and such great dads to their three toddlers. And we know them just through the community and like through our group of friends, but also they've been through a lot. They've become rather well known here in Utah for taking some heat on social media, which is devastating because they've just put out nothing but love. So we're really excited to hear from them, hear more about their story, how they got together, how they became dads of three, and what they're dealing with right now in today's climate on social media.
Yes. Can't wait.
Yeah. I think that honestly right now, like, it's really important for us to use our platform to highlight the LGBTQ community because they're going through so much. They're a target of a lot of attacks right now. And I think that it's an amazing opportunity for us to use our platform to raise up their voices and their stories. And as allies, that is what we are here to do. So after the break, we are so excited to introduce you to Jake and Sean, otherwise known as Dads of Three. Connie, how much do you love family game night?
It's one of my favorite things that we do for sure as a family. I love it.
KIWICO is defining the future of play by making it engaging, enriching, and seriously fun. They create super cool hands-on projects designed to create a lifelong love for learning among kids.
Each month, KIWICO delivers crates packed with fun that spark creativity with kid-friendly topics and activities.
From engineering robots to learning about the science of cooking, there's interesting topics for every kid and real hands-on skills to explore. I love KIWICO because the crates come with such fun things to create. Like last week, the kids and I made this speaker from the crate, and it was so cool because Brooks was actually learning about electricity in class, and he was learning about an open circuit versus a closed circuit. And it was so cool to see like what he was learning in school come to life with this speaker that we made. Once we figured it out, it was like the whole family won.
That's so fun.
But Brooks takes credit for knowing about the circuit.
It doesn't matter what age your kids are, there is something for everyone that comes in the crates. Teenagers are usually pretty hard to get to come and do activities with you, but with KIWICO, my kids are even willing to come down and spend some time with us and create some stuff. They even sent us a ukulele to build. It was so much fun watching them try to figure this thing out, but they played music off of it once it was done, so it worked.
Get super cool, hands-on science, art, and geography projects delivered to your door every month. These are real engineering, science, and art projects with high-quality materials.
And there's something for kids of all ages. There's no commitment, so you can pause or cancel at any time.
Redefine learning with play. Explore hands-on projects that build creative confidence and problem-solving skills with KIWICO.
Get 50% off your first month plus free shipping on any crate line at KIWICO.com/wildrose. That's 50% off your first month at KIWICO.com/wildrose. Thank
you so much for joining us, taking the time out of your busy lives to come and to chat with us. We're so excited to have you.
Of course. No, we're happy to be here. Thanks for having us. It was an honor when you asked us. So
yeah. So
thank you.
there's so much to talk about. So I feel like the best way is just to dive in from the start. Let us know who you are, where you came from, how you met.
Okay.
How, like, we just want to know the full story. Where were you raised? How did you meet? How was your wedding? What made you decide to become dads? And then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm like, how do I clump that down into where to begin? So I'm Jake.
And I'm Sean.
And we are dads to triplets. And it's been a journey to get there. Sean and I both grew up in Utah, both very strict Mormons. I knew by the time that I was baptized, I honestly knew that I was gay. I knew that I was different, that I had different feelings, and I was really hoping that that would change me. I remember having that feeling and almost getting nervous for the interviews too, because I didn't want anybody to find out that, you know, the little crushes that I had were on boys, not on girls.
And so for everyone's perspective, that's 8 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So 8 years old is baptism. Yeah.
Exactly. Like long before anything was, you know, any like sexual feelings or anything like that, you just felt different. And, you know, you felt little butterflies for little boys instead of little girls. And I connected with a lot of the girls as friends, but that was it. So I knew from a really young age that I was gay. But I was so scared of it, so scared of coming out, of facing that I just completely turned toward, you know, the Mormon religion and just really like embedded myself in that. I served in tons of leadership positions, was on, you know, seminary council in high school, which is like church school almost. I served a 2-year mission trip in Costa Rica where you're just completely dedicated to the church. And when I came back, I was still like, I've done everything to get rid of being gay, and I still was. I couldn't get rid of those feelings. So I really had to come to terms with that. And
had you
Sean
talked
and
to
I met,
anybody at this point about any of it, or had you kept it all to yourself by this time?
honestly, I kept most of it secret, besides to church leadership, because they ask you these things and you feel so guilty and you want to confess and you want to get it out. So I had leaders that kind of helped me through, but I hadn't even come out to my parents. And when I got home from my mission, things didn't work out with the girlfriend that I had. And that was devastating because I felt like that was the only girl that I could have made this work with. And it just all fell apart. And from there, I kind of fell into this depression. But I think that the Mormon religion, there's so much pressure on how you look. And I really played into that. And so I was so scared of what people would think of me. So that depression was completely hidden as well. And I kind of lived this double life of, you know, living recklessly and just going out and experimenting and figuring things out, and then feeling so guilty and coming back to church and repenting. So when I met Sean, I was actually in this phase of where I was very, very religious again, and I didn't want to do anything with guys. I didn't want to act on this. I had committed to a life of, you know, celibacy or finding a wife that would be understanding of my situation. And so we started chatting online, and I don't know if you want to kind of take over from there. That's where you enter.
Yeah, so we are the Grindr success story. We met on Grindr, of all places.
Love
but
it.
it was funny because, when we both started chatting, we neither one of us had the intention of like, we're looking for a boyfriend, we're looking for a long-term relationship. It was strictly just somebody else to talk to that could, you know, possibly relate to what you're going through. And so we chatted online for a couple of months, and I was extremely nervous to meet Jake in person. I had just gone through a couple of really odd experiences with other guys, and that were super pushy with me and uncomfortable. So it took me a while to build up the courage to meet him in person.
Wait, so Sean, had you come out at this point? Or
no,
what was your story up to this point? Because you grew up Mormon as well?
Yeah, so I grew up Mormon as well. And I always knew I was gay too. I'm probably from around the same age. I remember having feelings when I was being baptized that, I was attracted to boys and that this was a sin that I had. And I was hoping that it would be washed away. But when I was probably 15 or 16, I started really questioning the church and whether or not it was true. And that's when I kind of stopped going to church. And I remember an experience where I started to tell my parents that I was gay. And so I sat them down one day and I just told them that I was struggling with same-sex attraction and that I was doing everything that I could to try to get rid of that feeling. I was praying, I was doing, I was a part of seminary as well, reading the scriptures, doing everything that I possibly could to try to get rid of this part of me. And broke down, and my parents were like, it's okay, we're here for you, we support you, we want you to be happy, but we also agree that we would love this part of you to go away, and I think part of it from my parents' perspective was, we don't want to see you struggle, we don't want to see you leave the church, we don't want to see you have people make fun of you or call you names, that sort of a thing. But then so I kind of shoved it down, didn't deal with it for another couple of years until I met Jake. And so we started talking online. This was all secret. My parents didn't know I was talking to anybody. And we met at a Jamba Juice because I wanted to meet somewhere safe and in a public setting. And
Smart. That's smart, right?
And get a healthy smoothie at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we met at a Jamba Juice. It was totally not a date. It was just like, I remember we were ordering Jamba Juice and Jake knew who I was like in probably 10 seconds because I show up in a tank top and I ordered a Jamba Juice and I asked for protein. I was like, how much is that going to cost? And they were like 50 cents. I was like, never mind.
So frugal.
I was like,
so frugal.
Yeah. Didn't want to spend that extra 50 cents for protein. But yeah, then we sat in the car and we chatted for probably 4 hours and just really hit it off. And I remember saying to Jake, I've never had a friend that understood me like this, that got me. We're going to be best friends. We're going to help each other through this. We're going to find understanding wives that are okay with us being, same-sex attracted, but like, we're not going to act on it. So even at the beginning of our relationship,
is that a thing? Is that a common thing that you find a wife, like in the Mormon community, where you find a wife that is okay with same-sex attraction?
I think that it's not as open. I feel like now that it's coming to this conversation, I think the church has been more vocal on it's okay, you just can't act on it. I think back in the day, though, so many people were just scared of it and they just figured that would fix it. So that if you could get married to a woman, that it would eventually go away, or you were doing the right thing, so you'd be less tempted by it. I had intentions of just being honest with that woman, but I don't think that it works. I don't know. I know that there's a spectrum
like
of
physically possible.
Yeah.
That's not possible.
It would have been miserable.
Emotionally, physically.
Unless you're really bisexual and can make it work. But yeah, I feel like if you are gay, it's not fair to her. It's not fair to you. Mm-hmm. I think what was so magical about that night is not that being gay is my entire identity, but when you live closeted, you're thinking about it constantly. So it is a huge part of who you are. And even when I talked openly to church leadership, it was from such a place of shame and guilt as I'm going through a repenting process, basically. When I was talking with Sean that night, I think it was really the first time in my entire life that I felt completely authentic and safe to be myself. And I think that was so special. I think it's very unique that we've stayed together for over a decade after, that meeting, being each other's first boyfriends, but we didn't have intentions for that. We were going to help each other through the gay thing. We wanted to have a confidant that could help us, so that we could guide our way through this life. And honestly, I felt like, this life was a test for me, and next life I'll have happiness, that it wasn't in my cards for this life. And so then to feel this happiness, it was such a juxtaposition of, feeling so happy and authentic and having these butterflies of falling in love with somebody. And at the same time in the back of my head thinking this cannot last. Like at some point I'm going to have to repent of all of these happy moments.
That's such a sad way to think. And I get it though. That's how you were programmed. That's what you were taught. But how long were you just friends? Like how long were you friends before you realized that there was a romantic interest?
It
like were you just like
happened
hook
really,
up?
really quickly.
Did it?
Right? So our first couple of weeks we started hanging out regularly, like almost every day. We couldn't get enough of each other. And I think it was only like 2 weeks in where we had the conversation, I think I'm falling for you. I think this might be love. Like I've never felt this way before, and you feel right to me. And I don't know what that means or where that's going to take us right now, but I want to continue exploring this, and we'll kind of define this later. But right now I'm feeling a lot of love for you. So yeah, about 2 weeks in. And then from there, it's funny because I don't know that we ever officially said, hey, do you want to be my boyfriend? Will you be my boyfriend? We didn't really have that conversation. It just kind of evolved and became that. And then, do you want me to?
It was, are you going to talk about when I broke up with you for a day?
Broke up with me for a day, and that's the only breakup we've ever had. But
this all happened right before I went back to Los Angeles for school. So I had come home from my mission. I had to wait a full year before I could go back to college. And that's when I met Sean in like July. I had to go back to school at the end of August. So we had this like huge, like life-changing moment of meeting each other. And then I had to leave for school. So we still kept talking, but I kind of started feeling guilty again, and we're doing long distance. And I had just watched a general conference talk, which is like a huge church-wide meeting. And I swear everything was just making me feel so guilty that that night I wrote Sean this long letter, and I said, this is what Jesus meant when he said, having a broken heart and a contrite spirit, like this has to break my heart. He asked Abraham to sacrifice his son. He's only asking me just not to love in this life. And so I have to let you go. And so I broke up with him.
Breaks my heart.
And that takes me to like my actual coming out story. Because I was a fucking disaster that day. Like I had never felt heartbreak like that. I had been with girls, I had dated girls and easily broke up with them, no problem. Didn't get emotional about it. It was just like, you touch me too much. Just silly reasons to break up with a girl. But then he broke up with me and I was devastated and could not keep it together that day. And so my parents were just like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you, why have you been crying all day? And so then I told them, and I knew it was coming, that I couldn't just tell them that I had broken up with a girl. I couldn't lie anymore, I guess. I got to that point where I had to let them know Jake was not just my friend, he was my boyfriend, and he broke up with me. And I'll never forget like sitting on my parents' deck out back and having this conversation, and I was just sobbing and in tears. I knew that I was not only dealing with a heartbreak and getting broken up with, but I was dealing with like breaking my parents' heart, Mm-hmm. And my parents just kind of sat there and didn't know what to say and didn't know how to respond initially. I think it took them some time to process and deal with that before they could let me know that they still loved me no matter what. And my dad, luckily my dad had a brother who was gay and he died of AIDS. And so my dad had gone through that grieving and that process. And so I think he quite came around a lot quicker than my mom did, because he had such a close relationship with his brother, and he watched his brother die. And so he was like, I don't want that to happen to my son. And so his approach was very much like, I want you to be safe. I want you to be, to protect yourself, but I also want you to be happy. And if this is what's making you happy, I want you to continue to do what makes you happy, and we'll figure out the rest later. But my mom, I definitely broke her heart, and it was really, really hard for her to, come to terms with the fact that she had a son that was gay her whole life. She's been this kind of, like, she's never had a speeding ticket. I've never heard my mom swear. She's never done anything wrong in her life. She's just lived this path, followed this path. And so now all of a sudden she has this gay son, and that's not part of her plan. And so it took some time, but they're incredible now and have come so long, or so far since what was it, 10 years ago?
Yeah. So, wow.
Our breakup didn't last.
Yeah. And the one breakup in 10 years, I'm like, what? How have you only gone through one breakup?
We've had plenty of moments in our relationship where
I feel like we've had so many different relationships as you go on, but that was, for me, that was a very pivotal moment because I broke up with him. I was like, but please, let's be friends. I can't lose you. And he was like, hell no. Like, you break up with me, I'm out of your life. And so that night, I was just a depressive mess. I had never tried alcohol before, but I was at USC and it was like fraternity rush. And so I was like, well, I can't be happy, so let's just screw it. So I went to my roommate's closet and I think I chugged a beer, tried some whiskey, tried some vodka, just drank everything in like a 5-minute span. I was like, I don't feel anything. Went to a party and then just completely, blacked out. I don't even remember how I got home. But in that state of waking up, I feel like I was so just like humbled and just like, what is this life and what is my purpose and what's going on? And I felt like I got a really spiritual answer. We're not Mormon anymore. We've removed our names and, we've put that chapter behind us.
Not religious at all.
But I still consider myself pretty spiritual, just not religious in that sense.
Absolutely.
And I think in that moment I needed, an answer from something higher than myself to be able to choose such a different path than I had envisioned for myself for my entire life. So in that moment, I felt very strongly like I was telling God at the time, what I was believing in and saying, I know your rules. I've read your books. Like, I can't have this. And I felt this really strong impression that something was just telling me, you know what, I'm behind all of that. And I want you to be happy and you need to choose to be happy. And so impression was probably one of the most spiritual experiences of my life as I'm sitting on the bathroom floor hungover. But I knew at that moment that, this was going to be okay. And I had faith that if I just followed my heart, that things were going to work out. And so our breakup lasted a day. We didn't even go 24 hours without talking.
Oh.
And we kind of committed in that moment and have recommitted several times since. But that was our start.
Well, and you're married, correct? Are you married? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're each other's first love. You supported each other through coming out. You recommit every day as like that's marriage, right? Like it's
exactly.
I joke that it should be like a business contract. Like every year you decide if you want to renew.
Right. Yeah.
With new terms, new conditions.
Come up with a business plan, right?
That's what we do every November. We do our business plan and our marriage plan.
We kind of do. Yeah, we map it out.
So smart. And that's probably why you're so happy. But fast forward, so how long did you date before you got married?
So we dated
we got engaged
4 years.
3 years in.
Or 3 years.
Married 4 years in. So we've been married for 6.
And what was your wedding like?
We were poor. No, it was magical. It was great, but it was very different than like what I would envision my wedding to be today, you know. We rented a venue that was outdoors, and we ended up having, I mean, we had a good amount of people there. Jake wanted it to be like a big party. We had like 400 or 500 people there, and my parents were helping contribute a little bit financially to the wedding, and they did not want alcohol there. So we didn't have alcohol, but people tailgated and made it fun.
The car bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
exactly.
we do at the Utah weddings, the car bar.
It was, yeah.
I mean, it was a beautiful day. I feel like it was great.
I think it was perfect for that time in our life. And I think it was really special that for how hard it was for our parents at first to get to the wedding and see them so excited for us and really have a change of heart. Sean's dad was an active bishop of the church at the time and walked him down the aisle. And that was, you know, a really big
That's
step.
profound.
And I think,
yeah, it was crazy. We were on our honeymoon, and all of a sudden getting like notifications, text messages, like, did you see this tweet? Like, this tweet went viral. I wasn't even on Twitter.
it was just like Mormon bishop walks his gay son down the aisle.
No way.
The photo of me like crying down the aisle, you know, as I look at Jake, just and my dad, you know, next to me, just went viral. It was cool.
Yeah, you're a part of history. Like that's a big moment in, you know, the Mormon history, Utah culture. So it's so beautiful. And did you? So you have triplets?
We do. Yeah.
Triplet toddlers.
Yes.
Are they 2 or 3 now?
2. They just turned 2.
Oh, yeah. They just turned
2.
They just turned 2.
2.
3 of them that are 2 years old.
Yes.
Yeah. So 3 of them that are 2.
Yeah.
So did you always know you wanted a family? You always knew you wanted to be dads?
We did.
Or was that something like
it wasn't one of those things like where, you know, when we first met and started dating, we had this conversation of like, do you want kids? Do you want kids? That I remember.
Yeah, we kind of both knew.
It was just kind of like, okay, I guess this is the next step in life. I guess growing up Mormon, your whole life is like mapped out for you, right? It's like at this age you do this, at this age you do that, and everything is just told like to you. This is how you, and then you have kids, and then happily ever after, right?
Right.
Until you get to whatever kingdom you make it to. So I feel like
I want to go to whatever kingdom has drag brunch. Is that too much to ask? Bottomless mimosas and drag brunch. Sorry.
Right?
Whatever kingdom that is, I'll be there with you.
Yeah, let's make our own kingdom.
See, what I think that it's really like walk us through how you got your babies, how that came to be.
Yeah.
So
Kind
super
of,
fascinating.
I mean, so we both knew that we wanted kids, but obviously it's a very expensive process. Neither of us came from a lot of money, and so we were starting to build up our careers. We had just gotten into real estate, and that was starting to take off. And so we were like,
"This is realtors, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're both realtors here, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was exciting to start seeing our financial situation change and really, you know, see that a family could be possible if we really worked hard for this. And so we looked at all the different ways that you could start a family as an LGBT couple. We had some good friends that were going through the adoption process, and it just seemed heart-wrenching. They were just like having, you know, kick after kick and getting selected, deselected, having kids and having people change their mind and having those kids taken away. It seemed ruthless. And our naivete was like, let's do surrogacy because we can control it more. And that became a huge process. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into it. We chose an anonymous egg donor that donated eggs. Then we fertilized half of those with my sperm, half with Sean's, and ended up with 12 viable embryos at the end of that process.
Is that considered a lot?
That's pretty good.
Considered a lot, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We were
good
pretty
swimmers.
lucky. Yeah. A lot of people end up with like a few. And so we felt really lucky that we got 12.
Yeah.
And we have different sexes of like it within his batch and mine. So we really got to kind of play with science there.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's really cool. And then we interviewed a lot of amazing women that wanted to be a surrogate. And we found a really special angel of a lady in Idaho that wanted to help us, and kind of move through the process with her. And our first time that we went through the process, we transferred 2 embryos and only one was successful. Unfortunately, when we were 12 weeks in, we got the call in the middle of the night that she was miscarrying.
Oh, no.
And it was just tragic. And, you have all of this emotional heartbreak of, this was our family, this was our attempt to get there. We don't know where we go from here, plus the financial thing. And then we were trying to figure out, because you do a lot of testing beforehand. So a 12-week miscarriage in a natural pregnancy isn't super uncommon. But when you've done all of this genetic testing and before a surrogate, they considered it a late-term miscarriage. And so they were trying to do testing to figure out why this happened and what went wrong. And our surrogate, her body just wasn't up for it. And we were kind of waiting, and we were going to try another round, and we just couldn't get her levels right. And they kind of told us, if you continue with the surrogate, you kind of have a 50-50 chance of getting to the end. And we were so heartbroken from our first round.
Those numbers just didn't feel good to us.
We had to make a heart-wrenching decision again to switch surrogates, because our surrogate, it's like a huge part of our family getting here. And you imagine that with her and going through the process with her. So to switch that and be like, our journey is going to continue, but it's going to continue with somebody else, was really heartbreaking, actually.
I'm sure.
Well, and yeah. I have friends who are trying to find a surrogate right now, and it's been very hard for them. Like, they haven't been able, Shane and Ben, they haven't been able to find anyone.
Oh. Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah, it's a lot to ask of a person, and I feel like these are angels to do it.
And I didn't realize that, all of the different medical things that go into it too. All the testing you have to do. It has to be a good fit, physically and medically.
And then you have to have had a really good pregnancy before that went really smooth. And so then we ended up having to go through that and letting her know, hey, unfortunately, we're going to have to start searching for another surrogate. And the universe just started preparing this way, which was kind of crazy, because the Utah Fertility Center had this lady that just carried twins for another couple, and the pregnancy went flawless. And so they were like, hey, she's gearing up. She wants to try again. Are you interested in meeting with her? She and her husband are both deaf, but the last couple had no issues with that. And we're like, yeah, we don't mind that at all. And so we met with them and just instantly hit it off. It felt so right. And kind of crazy story, she actually has triplet boys of her own. So she has, she had at the time 4-year-old triplet boys, and then she carried twins for another couple, and then she was carrying our triplets. So she carried 8 kids in a matter of 4 years,
Her body was just made for this.
Yeah. And she was incredible. But that was just the craziest experience, because obviously we were not trying for triplets.
Yeah.
We only wanted...
We went back in and we're like, well, the first time we transferred 2 embryos and we only made it out with 1. And so, it's an expensive process to go through a couple times. So let's transfer 2. Let's see if we can get 1 again. We transferred 2, and one of those embryos, they both were successful, and then our girl embryo split into identical twins. And that's how we ended up with 3. And it was really great. You should tell the story about when we found out, because it was a roller coaster.
Yeah. So our surrogate, her HCG levels were really, really high. And she kept teasing us, you're pregnant with triplets. And we're like, no, we're not. That's really uncommon. For that to happen, the embryo's already created and so many days old before you transfer it. So the chances of it splitting are not super common, And so we went in for the ultrasound, where we were going to find out how many embryos ended up taking. And the girl was doing the ultrasound, and she was like, I do see 2 sacs there. So let me scan each sac and see if there's, a baby in each sac. And so she starts scanning the one sac, and she's like, you guys, I can only find one. I think you're only pregnant with one again. And Jake and I had talked on the way there. We were like, whatever outcome, because the first go around, we were honestly a little disappointed that both didn't take. We were, really hoping that both.
Of course.
And then we felt weird. Like, why are we not happier that, we have one,
The second time we're like, we get one.
Whatever the outcome is, we're happy. And so, she's scanning through. She's like, guys, I can only find one. I only hear one heartbeat. And we're like, okay, that's great. That's really cool, And she's like, let me just go grab another technician just to verify everything. Because you put in 2 and I can see 2 sacs, I just want to make sure, there's for sure not a second one in there. And so the other lady comes in and she starts scanning, and the baby at the time had moved, And so she's like, no, I can see another one. You're pregnant with twins. Mm-hmm. And so then we're super excited, right? We're like, we got exactly what we were hoping for. She's printing us off the ultrasound pictures. We're listening to the heartbeats. Mm-hmm. And I said to our surrogate, because she had been teasing us, hey, at least it's not 3. And we have that on.
We literally have it on camera shot and say, well, at least it's not 3.
And then she, the lady's finishing everything up, and she's like, wait a minute, I think I actually just saw a 3rd in there. And we're like, oh, no, you didn't. You heard us just joking. This is, no.
We planted that into your head.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah. You're very funny. It's not working with us. And she's like, no, seriously. And I was like, well, then you better show me all 3. That's a big difference. Going from 1 to 2 to 3, all in a matter of 20 minutes,
Oh,
and so sure enough, she got all 3 in one frame and was able to print out an ultrasound picture for us. And I was just like, I am not going to drive a minivan.
That was your first thought?
That's the first thought. No minivans.
No minivan. I refuse. And everyone was like, you're going to drive a minivan. We're taking bets. I have never driven a minivan. So.
But wow, your life changed dramatically in that moment.
Oh yeah, when they outnumber you from the start. I mean, 2 was we're kind of crazy for hoping for 2, but even just the thought where you're like, they outnumber us, and the car you drive changes,
our house,
we moved houses so that we could.
We were trying to fit. We had just built our last house, and it wasn't it wasn't a small house, but the bedrooms were smaller. So we were trying to fit 3 cribs in one room plus a dresser. And we're just this is not working,
Yeah.
And so we're I guess it's time to move, even though we just built this house. So yeah.
What has going back to those first days when they were born and bringing them home, what was that like? Sleep deprivation at its finest, or what was it?
The drive home was just the scariest drive I'd ever been on. You're just watching every single car because you're they had been in the NICU in these little incubators for 23 days, and you're and they were just so safe and protected. And then all of a sudden,
and you always had this help. It's nurses that tell you how to do things.
They're 4 pounds, when they finally once they're 4 pounds, and if they're checking off other milestones, they'll let you take them home. And I'm like. Now, Ren, our little one, she was 4 pounds.
She was 4 pounds. Willow, our other daughter, came home on oxygen. So we have this big old tank of oxygen strapped to her. And okay, now we're just in charge of keeping them alive.
Was that, I was going to say, that had to feel wait, am I qualified to do this? Because you're not only now parents, their survival at another level. It's not just about feeding them at this point. She was on oxygen. Yeah. They're born. Were they premature?
And they were premature. So you also have to feed them every 2 hours because their stomach's not big enough at that point, so you're feeding them every 2 hours. Ours just happened to have reflux, all of them. So they would
take an hour to get the 2 ounces into them, and then they would throw it off.
You start over. So it's just you're just this on this.
It's honestly a blur almost. In that first week, we were no, Grandma's we've got this. We just want to bond with them. and we were so scared to even take shifts because we're one of us on feeding all 3 babies. And if you did it one at a time, Like that would take you 2 hours just to get through a feeding. You'd have to start over again right after that. So we just, we'd take an hour nap, wake up and do it again, wake up and do it again, like all throughout the day. It just felt like this huge blur. And then
for 6 months.
And then you just learn.
Were you able to
get
paternity leave?
Luckily, I mean, working in real estate,
we work for ourselves.
Really? Yeah, right. Yeah.
So we were able to like do some work while the babies were napping or sleeping during the day or, at night. Like you just find any little bit of time you had. And
we did take a couple
and then
weeks off
just because time we give our business to other people while, and we just took a referral fee on any business we sent to other people. And yeah.
You can't, we thought that we were prepared, and then you get in the trenches and you're like, this is crazy. And I think we still tell ourselves that. You wake up some days if the kids are sick and there's 3 of them and you're like, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. And also
just say how it is.
Amazing and so great, but so hard.
Yeah.
What has been the hardest phase so far? So there are 2. I imagine the newborn phase, but because I think my favorite ages of my kids was always like the 6 to 9 month. Yeah. And then I love the 2 to 3. So like what has been the hardest and the best stage so far?
Yeah, I would say ours was like a year to maybe 18 months. That was really cute, really good. Like before they're walking, they're sitting up, they're just like looking around, like they're sleeping, like they were finally on a really good sleep schedule. So they were sleeping through the night and they were taking 2 naps on top of that. So you can just like get stuff done while they're napping. Mm-hmm. When they're up, they're happy. Like you're starting introducing feeding to them, well, I guess earlier than that, but like they're eating and they're just excited about every little thing.
You finally get some interaction.
All of a sudden,
at the beginning, you're like, we're doing a lot of work and you don't even smile at me. So once they start like getting their little personalities, it's so cute.
Yeah.
I think
it's a really hard stage.
I think it was like the end of like going into this last winter because they were just getting sick every month. And I think they were at that point where they're wanting to communicate, but don't know how to communicate yet. So they're just, if we had 15 minutes of silence without screaming and tantrum and crying, that was a win. Like it was just constant stimulation all day long.
And they would just rotate. Like, you're like, could you all 3 just get this out at once? And then like, let's have a good solid hour of no crying. It's like, no, we're going to take turns, Dad. Let's like.
They all want to be held standing up one-on-one. And you're like, but there's only 2 of us.
Do they get each other riled up? When one of them gets upset, do they kind of like get each other riled up, or do they like keep their moments for each other?
They didn't used to. And they've always slept in the same room and they didn't used to wake each other up, like even if one was crying. And now I think that they're more aware and just learning how to cope with their emotions. I think that they rile each other up more, or they start fighting, or they bite each other. And you're like, no.
I don't know how you word half this stuff.
Well, there's, I can't remember what age it is,
where.
But it's like at a young age where kids learn to manipulate their parents.
It's instinct.
Oh, yeah.
It's
like an instinct.
So can you imagine having 3
Yeah.
little ones manipulating you at all times?
No, I barely could handle one-on-one, and there were only 2 of them, and that's it. So I have mad respect for both of you. And that being said, do you guys have help with the kids now?
We do, yeah.
About 6 months in, we were like, because at first we both do real estate, so we just thought, we can bounce off each other's schedules, and this will work out. But it didn't. It's just way crazier than we thought it was going to be. So about 6 months in, we decided to look into, we had a neighbor that was doing the au pair program, which is basically like a foreign exchange student meets childcare. And so we're on our second au pair. We had our first au pair for a year, and now we have a second au pair. She's from Colombia. She's really great. She lives with us, does a little studying while she's here, and then does some childcare too. And she's kind of like our oldest daughter, like really, she's just a part of the family. But that helps out a ton, so that we're able to have some consistent.
Have you enjoyed the au pair experience?
Yeah, I would totally recommend it.
Because I had
been really good.
Oh, you did you? Did you enjoy it?
It didn't work out for me.
What
so we're glad it's working out.
Yes, I'm so glad it's working out for you, because it really is the most ideal situation if it can work.
Yeah. Just personalities were clashing. You didn't like it?
Well, I had my first girl just came here to party for sure. Just ticket to the U.S. to meet boys and party. She drove under the influence and wrecked my car.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The second one didn't realize she was coming here to work. So it just didn't work out for me. If I hindsight,
we've
I just would have
horror stories from friends that have done it. Yeah, had a rematch.
And I think it's just like my personality too. Yeah, it's just a personality thing too. But on Instagram, I have to say, you would never know how hard it is, because your Instagram is like the cutest thing.
And you guys are seriously the cutest dads in the world. Like birthday parties over the top, and like everything's so cute and just coordinated, and you make it look easy, and we know it's not, but you make it look really, really easy, because you guys do such wonderful, cute, fun things with your kids.
Wow. Thank you.
They're lucky.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely chaos behind the scenes.
For sure.
And I mean, we all know the internet is not always reality, but
sure.
It's kind of crazy, because right after the babies were born, we just posted like a video of our kids being born, a little bit of our story, and it went super viral on TikTok. It was like right at the time, like it was kind of middle of COVID, and so it just took off, and we ended up with this big audience and kind of growing, and then having opportunities from there. But I think it's been really special to have a community, and we've been so vocal about our entire journey, even our surrogacy and our miscarriage, birth, what it's like parenting, because we didn't really have role models growing up, especially coming from a high demand religion, being gay dads. There's not a ton of us. There are some amazing, pioneers out there that are doing it, but we thought that it was very important for us to be as present as possible and try to show an authentic view of what this life is like, so that we could, if there's that LGBT youth that's going through a hard time like we were, and thought that a life with a family or with a husband was impossible, if we can give that hope to somebody, I think that it's worth all the hate that we get online.
Yeah, it's super inspirational, and you are paving the way for so many youth. And I know that right now, it's such the LGBTQ community is under attack, and it feels like you always have been, but even more so now. And Connie and I were talking about the hate that you've been receiving online. Are you comfortable to talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think whenever you're putting out, especially I think authenticity triggers people. And I think that I heard somebody say it, and it really helped me change my frame about the hate that comes in. I mean, it really does show more about that person and their internalized trauma that's coming out as hate toward another group of people, and them being authentic and just living their lives. We honestly don't post a ton of really controversial things. It's just our family. But for some people, that is controversial, just us existing and living. And like you said, we're under attack for just being authentic human beings. Luckily, we get a lot more support than hate. And we've learned kind of how to channel and, put that hate toward good, or be able to use that as a platform to help show people this is still going on, and here are ways that you can help support our community. But it did used to get under our skin. You hear things. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
you have
hurts.
days where Yeah, you pull something up and you're like, they attack your integrity, your character. They say horrible things about your kids and how they pity your kids, or how you better protect them from these perverted men. And you're like, I love my kids more than anything. Like, I would do anything for them. And I'm providing, we work our asses off to be able to give our kids, you know, the best life that we can, and teach them to be kind individuals and strong individuals and open-minded toward others. And that is just triggering to people. And
Well,
so we do get a lot of hate.
Yeah, but I think it's because when you're authentic, you're literally a mirror to people, and you're forcing people to look in the mirror at themselves. And a lot of people wish they could be so truthful, so authentic, and live their most authentic life and be their highest self, right? And also, you're changing the narrative. You're literally bridging the gap from, you know, this taboo of gay marriage to being a gay couple and having kids. Like, you are changing the narrative and breaking the gap, and it's so brave of you, but you're literally challenging people's perception of, wait, that's not accepted, right? And now that it is accepted, I think it's just because you're challenging people's preconceived narratives, or you know, those tapes that play, what are they, like, you know, programming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
You're challenging the narrative of previous programming.
Yeah.
And I think that when people see, wait, this is peaceful, it's joyous, it's happy, it's normal.
Okay.
Some people get really upset with that. I've noticed. I mean, I do not know what it's like to walk your shoes, but just watching from the outside looking in, it's probably because you're doing something that's very profound and help me.
Heroic?
Yes, that word.
Yeah. And it's just baffling. It's baffling to me because watching you guys and seeing you and knowing you and seeing what loving, hardworking dads that you are, like, you are, like, there's so many more straight, you know, married couples or not married couples that have children that don't treat their children nicely, or abuse them, or abuse each other. And, like, you don't really hear a lot of that or see a lot of that, but I mean, maybe you do, but all you guys share is, like, all of this love. You just, like, glow with it. And I see it in person when I see you guys, and I see it online. And so it just is baffling to me when I see that people have any space to throw hate back. And that's where it goes back to, it's all about them. It's nothing about you, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, thank you.
And I think that as a collective, I personally feel like we should all be focused on the youth, because they are our future. They're going to be here to take care of the world, the people who are going to influence your kids' lives. And you are sending a message of love and hope to them. So forget all the old bogeys out there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's true.
Well, we don't want to take, like, too much of your time, but is there any last, like, message or anything you'd like to leave with our listeners? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who may be in a similar situation, or who want to come out, or recently have come out.
Or want to have children.
Yeah, want to have children, don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think coming out of that conversation of, like, the hate online, I think we can all relate that, you know, probably the hardest experiences in our life always make us stronger and bring us out on the other side. And so I feel like, you know, for those that are going through a tough time, like, push through it. You've got this, and you're going to come out so much stronger, and you're going to come out ahead. And, like, never give up. It just, like, you know, looking back, I obviously went through my period of time where I was super suicidal, made reckless decisions. I was actually totally not me at all, but I got a bullet bike, and because I was like, I don't want to be the one to kill myself, but, you know, if it happened recklessly, then I don't have to leave my parents with that feeling that, like, I killed myself. It happened on a bullet bike. And I actually ended up getting in an accident on it and got pretty shaken up from it. And it kind of like lit something back under me and just like changed my perspective on life. And so I feel like, you know, those that are going through that or going through a tough time, now looking back, like, obviously I'm so happy that didn't happen and that I'm still here today. And I have, you know, an incredible husband, 3 beautiful children, and my life has totally, totally changed. And that didn't happen for anyone. And however you envision your life or whatever you envision for your life, you can make happen. Like if you have a desire for it, you can achieve it, is truly what I believe. So
that's beautiful.
Wow.
Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that.
Yeah.
I think that I would say to lead with love. I think that when you lead with love and when your heart is in the right place, you're going to be guided. The opportunities will open up for you. And I mean, if I could see my 12-year-old closeted, scared, depressed self and show him what I have now, 3 amazing kids, successful careers, and an incredible husband and partner, I wouldn't have even believed it. I think that it's hard to imagine the happiness that you can receive, but know that you're deserving of it. Know that you deserve to be loved. You deserve to give love. And if you lead with love and hope, I don't think that you can go wrong.
Yeah, I think if you're a human on this earth, you deserve love.
Absolutely. That is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, not only I needed to hear that, but I know there's a lot of people that are listening, and just that reminder of, you know, never give up and lead with love. And, you know, all these things are they're good reminders to all of us.
Yeah. So thank you for being so vulnerable and honest and your true, authentic selves. We love you and we're rooting for you. And your family is so beautiful and you give so much hope to the world. So just keep being you because you're amazing. And where can everyone find you?
You can follow us at Daddies to 3. We're on Instagram and TikTok.
That's all spelled out. DADDIESTOTHREE.
And I also want to say thank you to both of you. We've had the pleasure of, you know, meeting and knowing you in person, and you're beautiful, authentic souls. And we are very, very honored that you have given us this platform to be able to share our story and to be the hope.
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
thank
it's
you.
an honor for us too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Likewise.
All right. Well, have an incredible day. I'm sure you have 3 little ones waiting for you to come back.
Yeah, I can hear them waking up from their nap. I'm like,
Oh, we caught them during a nap. You guys during nap time. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah,
And just
yeah, worked out.
soak in those little noises now, because pretty soon that's going to be stomping on the ground, doors slamming.
Yeah, just be
Right.
present in each stage, because one thing
true.
that gets easier, the next thing gets harder. But eventually, they're grown up like my kids, and then they're gone. So,
now
It happens so fast.
enjoy as much as possible.
Thank you.
All right. Well, have
Thank you.
the
Thank
best
you.
day ever.
Yes, we
Okay,
love
you
you guys.
too. We love you both.
Love you
love
too.
you.
Okay,
so
take
much.
care.
Love you.
Great.
Bye.
Bye. Wow, their story was so inspirational on so many levels. I'm so glad that they were here and shared that with us and with all of you today. Like,
Yeah. No, it's. I know we're both so emotional. We can't speak.
I know.
No, they're so brave and such a light, and it just breaks my heart that they do receive so much hate because they're beautiful humans and such great fathers. And I think that it's just really important for people to see that it's not weird, it's not bad, and lead with love. Like, don't judge people's situations. Just show
because
up.
it's different
Yeah.
than yours. Yeah. Yeah, it's so important to just love people, even if you don't understand, if you don't agree with it. You don't have to. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't know.
I wish I could just turn back people's urge for hate. I wish they just didn't say anything at all, but that's not the world we live in. But
Unfortunately.
again,
But
thank you to all of you.
Yes.
We love you. We hope that you enjoyed listening to Jake and Sean.
As much as we did.
Yes. Someday I hope to have those 3 little ones on here when they can,
Can you imagine?
communicate because they're adorable. So go follow
so
them at Dads to 3. And we love you. And don't forget,
Be you, stay wild. Bye, everyone.
Bye.